Welcome to Ancestral Wisdom, where the wisdom of the past guides our future. Today we're going to be talking about the Rune Isa, and it's drawn very simply as a simple line. And one way that you can remember the shape of the Rune Isa is by thinking of an icicle, which, even though it might curve a little bit, is fairly uh, similar to a straight line. And you can remember the translation, or what we can use as a valid and useful translation, because it sounds very similar to Isa, ice. All right, so what does the rune Isa symbolize, and how can we use the meaning from that rune, to make our lives better? Well, first, ice is something that's formed when the energy in a particular substance is diminished to such a degree that all of the molecules, they slow down and slow down and slow down to the point where they basically stop, right? And so that's when ice is formed. That's when a liquid becomes a solid. So it's a lack of energy, and it's a lack of motion and movement. It's a stillness. And that type of stillness, that the concept of perfect stillness, is a deep concept. We often strive for stillness in some ways. If we meditate, we strive for stillness of mind. If distractions come into our our train of thought, then we can very often try to combat that distraction by maintaining a certain stillness. Maybe the turbulence of our negative emotions well up. Well, we can try to still them, still our mind, and still our spirit. Stillness can be a positive and healing force. It's also one of the two concepts which give birth to matter. So the concept, the idea of fire, spark, which is represented by the Ephron Fehu, is balanced by the concept of Isa. And neither one of them is matter, but the stillness of antimatter, perhaps, and the dynamism of the concept of the spark combine to form matter, which is why in the Norse creation myth it was the fire and the ice basically coming together which created the world. And it's the concept of those two things joining that creates matter and creates the world as we know it. Isa, being a simple straight line, can be seen in the actual written ruins and all of the other ruins basically. So I have a small, very quickly written example here, a diagram here. You have Isa in the middle, and if you look at the way the other ruins are constructed, every single one of those ruins has a straight line in it somewhere, right? So Isa is a silent pillar of strength and identity at the heart of all of the things that exist. And those things need that pillar of Isa in order to exist. One way to think about that is to think about ourselves and who we are. Well, who we are, our ego, our sense of self, and our identity could be seen as Isa. It's something that is steady. But it would be dangerous for us to only evoke Isa in order to understand ourselves, because we're not just one thing that stays the same. We're not just order. We're also chaos. We have dynamism within us, and we're constantly changing, or at least we should be constantly open to change in some way. And just as we need the ice in order to guide us and maintain a sense of self and identity, we also need the fire and the chaos to burn off the dead wood and to make sure that we are able to grow and change if we need to. If we don't have that fire, that chaos, then we ossify, or we we freeze, right? Um, from too much order. But if we don't have the if we don't have that force of Isa, that strength of ego and self, that root, then the fire will burn down the whole forest instead of just burning off the dead wood. So we need the balance. Too little of it is a dissolution of self, loss of self. Seek far without losing yourself. It's a good motto that you can use that sums up this idea of balance. If you seek too far without remembering who you are, then you might be lost and you might not even be a self anymore. But if you don't seek far and open yourself to change, then you won't be adaptable enough to meet life's challenges. And so, think of Isa as the anchor to the self, and your safety, your ability to maintain a self, the tether that you can hold on to while you go off and explore and become open to the possibility of change. Change, seek without losing yourself. Isa, Isa. He who rules the Visa, on sus raido canas, yebo onjo agalam, now Isa yera, you was per throelgas, so vilo tiwas, per cano e womana, lagos invastea. O Thala